I stood in my new kitchen, running my fingers along the smooth marble countertop. The morning sun streamed through the large bay windows, casting warm shadows across the hardwood floors. My house. Even after 3 weeks, those words still felt surreal. Every inch of this $850,000 home was mine, earned through years of sacrifice, hard work, and a secret I'd kept from my family for the past decade. The doorbell rang, echoing through the empty rooms. I checked my watch. 2 o'clock p.m., right on time. My family was nothing if not punctual when it came to free food and showing off. I'd invited them for a housewarming, my first real celebration in years. Part of me hoped things would be different now, that maybe my success would finally earn their respect. I should have known better. I opened the door to find my sister Amanda standing there, her 3 kids already pushing past me into the house. Behind her, my mother's critical gaze swept over the exterior, probably calculating how much she could get if she sold it. Dad just stood there, uncomfortable as always when he wasn't in control. "Oh my God!" Amanda gasped, her eyes widening as she took in the open-concept living room. This is incredible! How did you afford this?" There was an edge to her question, the same one I'd heard my entire life. The unspoken accusation that I must have done something wrong to get anything nice. I'd learned to ignore it. "I worked hard," I said simply, leading them through the house. "Would you like a tour?" Mom scoffed. "Hard work doesn't buy houses like this, not for someone like—" She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't have to. "Someone like you. The family disappointment. The one who'd been kicked out at 18 for daring to choose a different path than the one they'd planned." The tour continued, each room drawing more pointed comments and whispered conversations. Amanda's kids ran wild, their sticky fingers touching everything, their shoes scuffing my newly finished floors. I bit my tongue. They were just kids, I reminded myself, even if their mother had never taught them respect. We ended up in the kitchen, where I'd laid out a small spread for lunch. As everyone settled around the island, Amanda's oldest son Tommy knocked over a glass of juice, the red liquid seeping into the pristine white rug I'd just bought. "Oh, honey, be careful," Amanda said absently, not moving to clean it up. "This house isn't really child-friendly, is it?" I grabbed paper towels, soaking up what I could of the stain. "It's not meant to be. I live alone." "That's exactly the problem," Mom interjected, her voice taking on that familiar righteous tone. "All this space, just for one person, it's selfish." I straightened up, tossing the soap towels in the trash. "Selfish? It's my house, Mom. I bought it with my money." "About that," Amanda said, sharing a look with our mother. "We've been talking." My stomach dropped. I knew that tone. It was the same one she'd used when she convinced our parents to give her my college fund because she was pregnant and needed it more. "This house would be perfect for us," she continued, gesturing to her kids, who were now drawing on my walls with markers. "The school district is amazing and the kids need a yard. You don't even use half these rooms." I laughed, but no one joined in. They were serious. "You're joking, right? This is my house. I bought it." "Don't be selfish," Mom snapped. "Your sister has 3 children to think about. What do you need all this space for? To come home to an empty house every night? To remind yourself how alone you are?" The words stung, but I'd learned long ago not to show it. I need it because it's mine. I earned it. "How?" Dad finally spoke up, his first words since arriving. "How did you really get this house? No bank would give you a mortgage, not with your history." My history, he meant the time they kicked me out, cut me off, left me to fend for myself because I wouldn't follow their perfect plan for my life. What they didn't know was that being kicked out was the best thing that ever happened to me. "You'd be surprised what I'm capable of," I said quietly. Amanda stood up, placing her hands on the counter. "Look, we've already decided. The kids love it here, and it makes more sense for a family to have this space. You can take our apartment. It's perfect for a single person. You've decided." I felt a cold anger building in my chest. You don't get to decide anything about my house. Don't be difficult, Mom sighed. We're trying to help you. Living alone in a big house like this, it's not healthy. You need to think about your family. My family? I couldn't hold back the bitter laugh. Where was my family when you kicked me out at 18? When I was sleeping in my car, trying to finish school? When Amanda took my college fund? That was different, Dad muttered. You were being unreasonable. Unreasonable because I wouldn't give up my dreams to work at your company, because I wanted to study technology instead of taking over the family business. The business you let die, he snapped. The business that could have been yours if you weren't so stubborn. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. The business you ran into the ground, you mean? The one you lost because you wouldn't listen to anyone's advice. His face reddened. How dare you? No, how dare you? I cut him off. You come into my house, criticize my life, and then have the audacity to demand I give up my home for Sister Dearest here. Amanda's face twisted into that familiar pout. You're just jealous because I have a real family, because I did things the right way. The right way. I pulled out my phone, fingers hovering over the document I'd kept hidden for 10 years. You mean getting pregnant at 19 to trap your boyfriend? Taking my college fund? Is that the right way? That's enough. Mom stood up. Pack your bags. We're doing this whether you like it or not. Family comes first. I smiled then, a real smile that seemed to unnerve them. You're right, Mom. Family does come first. That's why I bought this house. With my money. Money I got from the settlement after Dad's company went bankrupt. The room went silent. Even Amanda's kids stopped their destruction to stare. What settlement? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. I pulled up the document on my phone and turned it so they could see. Remember when you kicked me out? I was still legally listed as a partner in the company. When you lost everything, I was entitled to compensation. I just never told you. Mom's face went pale. That's impossible. We removed you from everything when you left. No, you tried to, but you forgot about the trust Grandpa set up. The one that made me a silent partner. When the company went under, I got a settlement. A rather large one. Dad grabbed the phone, his hands shaking as he read. This is $850,000. I finished for him. Exactly what I paid for this house. Funny how things work out, isn't it? Amanda's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But that should have been shared. I have kids to think about. Kids you chose to have when you could barely support yourself, I reminded her. Kids you used as an excuse to take everything from me. Well, not this time. This house is mine, bought with money I was legally entitled to. And you're all leaving. Now you can't do this. Mom's voice shook with rage. We're your family. I walked to the front door, holding it open. No, you're not. You lost that right when you threw me away. Now get out of my house. This isn't over, Dad growled, grabbing Mom's arm and pulling her toward the door. You're right, I agreed. It's just beginning. Oh, and Amanda, you might want to check your apartment lease. I bought the building last week. Rent's going up. Their faces as they left were everything I'd dreamed of for 10 years. As the door closed behind them, I looked around my house, and finally felt at peace. They tried to break me, but instead they made me stronger. And now, standing in my own home, bought with the money they never knew I had, I was finally free. I pulled out my phone one last time, sending a quick text to my lawyer. They took the bait, start the proceedings. Then I walked to my kitchen, poured myself a glass of wine, and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's watching those who hurt you realize they never really knew you at all. The next few days would be interesting, to say the least. But for now, I had a house to clean. After all, marker drawings on walls don't remove themselves. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Within hours of my family leaving, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Text messages, voicemails, even emails, all demanding explanations, making threats, or attempting to negotiate. Amanda's messages were the most desperate. You can't raise the rent. I have kids. This is cruel, even for you. Mom and Dad are furious. You need to fix this. I read each message with a calmness that surprised even me. Years ago, those words would have sent me spiraling into guilt and self-doubt. Now they just confirmed what I'd always known. They only contacted me when they needed something. The most interesting message came from Dad's old business partner, Marcus. Just heard about the settlement. Smart move keeping it quiet all these years. Your father's having a meltdown at the country club. Coffee soon. I smiled, remembering how Marcus had been the only one to warn Dad about the company's impending doom. He'd also been the one to secretly tip me off about maintaining my legal rights to the business, even after being kicked out. My phone rang Mom's number. After 10 rings, it stopped, only to start again immediately. This time I answered. "How dare you?" Her voice was shrill, bordering on hysterical. "After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me?" I cut her off, my voice eerily calm. "You mean like throwing me out at 18? Or giving my college fund to Amanda? Or maybe showing up at my house and demanding I give it to your precious daughter? We gave you life." She was crying now, but I'd learned long ago that her tears were just another manipulation tactic. "We raised you, and then you abandoned me because I wouldn't be your puppet. Funny how you only want to claim me as family when you want something." There was a pause. Then her voice turned sickly sweet. "Sweetheart, we can work this out. Come to dinner tomorrow. We'll talk about everything. No thanks. I have plans." "Plans? With who? You don't have anyone." I laughed. "That's where you're wrong, Mom. I have myself. And that's more than enough." The next day, I met with my lawyer, Sarah, a sharp-witted woman who'd helped me navigate the settlement years ago. "They're trying to contest the settlement," she said, sliding a document across her desk. "Your father claims he was never properly notified." "He was," I replied, pulling out a decade-old certified mail receipt. "He just chose to ignore it. Like he ignored all the warnings about the company failing." Sarah smiled. "You really did think of everything, didn't you? I learned from the best manipulators. I just used their tactics for good instead of evil." We spent the next hour reviewing the paperwork. The settlement was ironclad, and my ownership of both the house and Amanda's apartment building was completely legal. They had no recourse. "There is one more thing," Sarah said as I stood to leave. "Your sister's lease. The previous owner left some interesting notes about late payments and property damage." I nodded. "Let me guess. She plays the single mom card every time, like clockwork. Want me to start eviction proceedings?" I thought about it for a moment. "No. Let's just enforce the lease terms strictly. No more late payments. No more excuses about the damages. She wants to be treated like family? Fine. Family doesn't take advantage of family, right?" Leaving Sarah's office, I found Amanda waiting by my car. Her eyes were red, her usually perfect makeup smeared. "Pleased," he started. "You can't do this. The kids. Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop using your children as shields. It's pathetic. I'm a mother. I have to protect them." "No, you have to teach them. Teach them not to be entitled, manipulative people who think the world owes them everything. Teach them that actions have consequences." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I'll tell everyone about the abortion." I froze. That was supposed to be our secret, from when we were actually close, before she changed, before she took everything. "Go ahead," I said, surprising myself with how little the threat affected me. Tell them. Tell them how you drove me to the clinic, how you held my hand, how you promised never to tell anyone because you understood why I couldn't have a baby at 17. Tell them how, 2 years later, you used that same understanding to convince me you deserve my college fund more because you were keeping your baby." She stumbled back, as if I'd slapped her. You're horrible." "No, I'm honest. For the first time in my life, I'm being completely honest, and it feels amazing." I got in my car, rolling down the window to deliver one final message. "Your rent's due next week. On time, in full. Or we'll have a different conversation." Driving home, I passed the old family house. Dad's car was in the driveway, and I could see Mom in the window, probably on the phone, spreading her version of events to anyone who would listen. My phone dinged with a text from Marcus. Your father's trying to rally the old business contacts against you. Little does he know, most of them lost money when he tanked the company. They're on your side. I smiled, turning onto my street. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across my beautiful home. My home bought with money that was rightfully mine. Money they never thought I'd be smart enough to claim. Inside, I walked through each room, touching the walls, the furniture, everything I'd chosen for myself. In the kitchen, I finally cleaned off the last of the marker drawings. In their place, I'd hung a small frame containing the original settlement check, a reminder of where I came from and how far I'd come. My phone buzzed again. A group text from Mom. Family dinner tomorrow. Attendance mandatory. We need to discuss recent events and find a solution that works for everyone. I typed out my response carefully. Sorry, can't make it. I'm having my house blessed tomorrow. You know, the house I bought with my settlement money, the one you tried to steal. Send my love to Amanda's kids. Hope they're enjoying the apartment while it lasts. Then I blocked them all, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat in my favorite window seat, watching the stars come out over my piece of paradise. Let them plot. Let them scheme. Let them try to guilt me into submission. I'd spent 10 years building my armor, crafting my revenge, and preparing for this moment. They thought they could break into my life and take what was mine. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The morning after I blocked their numbers, I woke up to find my front yard filled with moving boxes. Dozens of them, stacked haphazardly on my lawn, some already getting gammed from the sprinklers. A bright yellow post-it note was stuck to my door. Since you won't answer our calls, we're moving in. Family doesn't need permission. Amanda. I stood in my doorway, coffee cup in hand, and actually laughed. They really didn't know me at all. Within minutes, I had the police on the way, and my security company pulling up camera footage of them dumping the boxes. Officer Martinez, who I'd met during the house closing, arrived first. Morning miss. Having some gambling trouble? Just some unwanted deliveries, I replied, handing him a copy of my restraining order application and some trespassing issues to address. He nodded, understanding immediately. While we waited for the other officers, I told him everything: the settlement, the attempted house theft, the escalating harassment. He took detailed notes, occasionally shaking his head in disbelief. And you're sure you want to press charges? He asked, though I could tell he already knew my answer. Absolutely. It's time they learned about consequences. As if on cue, 3 cars came screeching into my driveway. Mom, Dad, and Amanda, with her kids in tow. They burst out, ready for battle, only to freeze at the sight of police cars. What have you done? Mom shrieked, trying to rush forward, but stopped by an officer. We're her family. We have every right to be here. Officer Martinez stepped forward. Man, you have no rights here. This is private property, and you're trespassing. Trespassing? Dad's face turned purple. That's my daughter. Yes, I called from my porch. I am your daughter. The one you kicked out. The one you abandoned. The one who owns this house and doesn't want you here. Amanda pushed forward, using her kids as shields again. Please, we have nowhere else to go. The apartment. The apartment you haven't paid rent for in 3 months? I interrupted. The one with $15,000 in documented damages? That apartment. She paled. How did you? I own the building, remember? I've seen all the reports, all the complaints, all the bounced checks. Did you really think I wouldn't look into it? Mom tried a different approach, her voice honey-sweet. Sweetheart, we can work this out. We're family. Blood is thicker than water. Funny you should mention blood, I said, pulling out my phone. Remember last week when you said I was alone? No real family. Well, I have something to show you. I pulled up a photo and held it out. Mom's face went ashen. It was a picture of her, Dad, and Marcus from 20 years ago at my real father's funeral. What? Where did you get that? Dad stammered. Marcus gave it to me right after he told me the truth about who my biological father was. The business partner you push out. The one who actually started the company. My real dad. The silence was deafening. Even the officers seemed caught up in the drama. That's why Grandpa set up the trust in my name. I continued. He knew the truth, too. He was protecting my inheritance from you. Dad lunged forward, only to be caught by two officers. You're lying. Marcus is lying. DNA doesn't lie, I said calmly. Neither do the old business documents showing how you forced my real father out, took his company, and then ran it into the ground. The settlement I got? It was always meant to be mine. Amanda's kids were crying now, confused and scared. I felt for them. They were innocent in all this. Unlike their mother, Officer Martinez. I turned to him. I'd like to press charges for trespassing, harassment, and attempted breaking and entering, and I want that restraining order filed immediately. You can't do this. Mom was crying now, real tears for once. We'll be ruined. Like you tried to ruin me? I asked quietly. Like you ruined my real father's company, his legacy? No, Mom. You did this to yourselves. The next hour was a blur of police reports, crying family members, and finally, less silence as they were escorted off my property. The moving boxes were taken as evidence, though I doubted Amanda had actually packed anything valuable in them. It was all for show, like everything else in their lives. Later that evening, I sat in my study, looking through old photos Marcus had given me. My real father's face smiled back at me. I had his eyes, his smile. All those years, I'd wondered why I felt like an outsider in my own family. Now I knew. My phone rang. Marcus! They're at my door, he said without preamble, demanding I tell them I lied about everything. Did you? Of course not. Your father was my best friend. Watching them raise you, seeing how they treated you, it killed me. But I had to wait until you were ready to know the truth. I smiled, touching one of the photos. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. Don't thank me yet, he chuckled. Wait until they find out about the other trust accounts your father set up, the ones that mature next month. I ended the call and walked to my window. The street was quiet now, no signs of the morning's chaos. In the distance, I could see the lights of the city where I'd once slept in my car, determined to make it on my home. My lawyer had texted. The restraining order was approved. 3 years, no contact. Amanda's eviction notice would be served tomorrow. Mom and Dad would be served with harassment charges by the end of the week. Some might call it cruel, destroying my family like this. But they weren't really my family, were they? They were just people who'd taken everything from me, including the truth about who I really was. I pulled out the last photo Marcus had given me, my real father holding me as a baby, his eyes full of love and hope. On the back, he'd written, "To my daughter, who will one day know the truth. Everything I built was for you." Well, Dad, I thought, raising my glass to the photo, I finally know the truth. And everything I built? That was for me. The sun set over my beautiful home, casting long shadows across the lawn, where hours ago my false family had made their last stand. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles perhaps. But for now, I was at peace, surrounded by the truth, protected by the law, and finally free. 1 year later, I stood in my garden, tending to the roses my biological father had loved so much. Marcus had helped me plant them, sharing stories about Dad as we worked the soil. Each bloom felt like a connection to the past I'd never known, a legacy I was finally embracing. The neighborhood had changed in the past year. Amanda's eviction had made headlines in our small community. Local mother of 3 exposed in family fraud. She'd moved across the state, apparently living with a cousin who'd taken pity on her. Her kids wrote to me sometimes, sweet letters that showed they were growing into better people than their mother. Mom and Dad, or rather, Helen and James, as I now thought of them, have faced their own consequences. The harassment charges had led to community service, and the revelation about my true parentage had destroyed their carefully crafted social standing. Last I heard, they'd sold their house and moved to Florida, running from the whispers and judgment they'd once been so quick to cast on others. Marcus had become a regular part of my life, filling the father's shade pole I'd never known I had. He brought over old videos, photos, letters, pieces of my real father's life that helped me understand who I was and where I came from. Your father would be proud, Marcus said one evening, watching me work in my home office. I'd started a tech company, something my biological father had always dreamed of doing before James pushed him out. You have his spirit, his drive. The doorbell rang, a familiar sound that no longer filled me with dread. Opening the door, I found Sarah, my lawyer, holding a thick envelope. It's done, she said, smiling as she handed it over. The last trust account has matured. Everything your father left for you is now legally yours, free and clear. Inside was a letter, written in my father's hand 2 decades ago. My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, then Marcus has finally told you the truth, and you've found your way back to your real legacy. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from James and Helen's manipulation, but I made sure to protect your future. The company you've built, the strength you've shown, that's all you. The money, the trusts, they're just tools. Your real inheritance is your spirit, your resilience, your ability to rise above those who try to keep you down. I may not have been able to watch you grow up, but I've watched over you through these preparations, hoping someday you'd discover who you really are. Love, Dad. Tears rolled down my cheeks as Marcus wrapped an arm around my shoulders. He really did think of everything, didn't he? He was always 10 steps ahead. Marcus nodded. Just like you, the final trust account had matured, adding another $2 million to my already substantial holdings. But the money wasn't what mattered. It was the validation, the knowledge that my real father had loved me enough to ensure I'd be okay, even after he was gone. That evening, I hosted a small dinner party. Marcus, Sarah, Officer Martinez, now a good friend, and a few other people who'd helped me along the way. As we sat in my beautiful backyard, surrounded by my father's roses, I finally felt complete. To new beginnings, Marcus raised his glass. And to family, the ones we choose, not the ones who choose to use us. I looked around at these people, my chosen family, and felt a peace I'd never known with my so-called real family. They tried to break me, to mold me into what they wanted, to steal what was rightfully mine. Instead, it set me free to discover who I really was. As the sun set over my garden, casting golden light across my father's roses, I smiled. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't your real family at all. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. And sometimes, just sometimes, the truth sets you free in ways you never expected. I was my father's daughter, strong, resilient, and finally home.